37 million Americans are living with chronic kidney disease right now. 9 out of every 10 of them have no idea. There's a single ingredient sitting inside foods you bought specifically because the label said healthy. Chances are, your doctor never walked you through what that ingredient actually does to your kidneys on a cellular level, because a checkup only gives you 12 minutes and there's no billing code for prevention. Stick with me, and by the end, you'll understand the entire chain of damage and exactly how to interrupt it. That ingredient is sodium. And before you tune out thinking, I already know this, I'm not talking about your salt shaker. The shaker makes up roughly 6% of your daily sodium intake. Just 6%. According to the CDC, more than 3/4 of the sodium in the average American diet comes from processed and packaged food. Sodium that was already baked in before you ever opened the bag. I've practiced internal medicine for 15 years. The patients I see developing early kidney damage aren't the ones eating fast food every day. They're eating bread, canned soup, deli turkey, cottage cheese, foods they picked precisely because they thought they were making the smart choice. Once you understand the mechanical chain, sodium to pressure to protein leakage, the fix becomes obvious, and it costs nothing. No prescription required, just a different grocery list. When I tell patients to lower their sodium, I hear the same response every time. Doc, I barely use salt. And they're being honest. They're careful with the shaker. They lean on pepper and garlic powder instead, and they still land north of 3,400 milligrams a day. Every milligram of it absorbed straight into their kidneys. The CDC's recommended ceiling for adults is 2,300 milligrams a day. If you're over 50, or you have high blood pressure or kidney risk factors, that drops to 1,500 milligrams. Yet 89% of American adults blow past even the higher number. So where is all that sodium actually coming from? According to CDC data, the single biggest source of sodium in the American diet is something most people would never suspect: ordinary bread. One slice of standard commercial whole wheat bread carries 200 to 250 milligrams of sodium. 2 slices at breakfast, 2 at lunch, and you've already hit 800 to 1,000 milligrams before adding a single topping. Deli meat comes next. A 2-ounce serving of deli turkey, the lean option, packs 500 to 620 milligrams of sodium. Then there's canned soup. A can labeled Heart Smart can hold 1,700 to 2,000 milligrams total, because the label's 480 milligrams per serving figure is based on 2.5 servings per can, and nobody stops halfway through a bowl. Cheese follows close behind. Cottage cheese alone runs 350 to 400 milligrams per half cup, with Parmesan, feta, and sliced cheeses right up there too. Then condiments. 1 tablespoon of soy sauce is 920 milligrams, ketchup about 150 milligrams, bottled dressings and marinades add even more. None of these are junk foods. These are groceries in your cart every single week. You can walk out of the store feeling responsible while your kidneys are already absorbing over 3,000 milligrams of sodium before you've touched the shaker even once. The shaker was never the problem. The damage happens at the factory. Here's the mechanism, laid out step by step, because once you see it, the label reading strategy later in this video will make complete sense. Your kidneys filter your entire blood supply roughly 40 times a day. That filtering happens inside microscopic structures called glomeruli, tight clusters of capillaries thinner than a human hair, each wrapped in its own capsule. You have about 1 million of them in each kidney. Blood enters each glomerulus under pressure. The capillary walls work like a sieve. Water, electrolytes, and waste pass through into urine, while larger molecules, proteins and blood cells your body needs, stay behind. The most important of those proteins is albumin, which makes up around 60% of the protein in your blood. It transports hormones, binds medications, and regulates fluid balance. It belongs in your bloodstream, not in your urine. When you take in more sodium than your body can quickly clear, your body retains water to dilute it. Blood volume rises. Rising blood volume drives up blood pressure. and that pressure increase reaches all the way down into each glomerulus. Those capillary walls are built to handle a specific pressure range. Push past that range chronically, not for a day, but for months and years, and the walls begin to stretch and thin. Tiny gaps form between cells, and albumin starts leaking through. That leak has a clinical name, albuminuria. It's the earliest measurable sign of kidney damage, and it compounds. Leaked albumin triggers inflammation in the surrounding tubules. Inflammation causes scarring, and scarred glomeruli don't regenerate. Once they're gone for good. Chronic sodium overload also activates a hormonal cascade called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, RAS. In short, it tells blood vessels to constrict and tells kidneys to retain even more sodium, a system meant to protect you in an emergency that becomes a destructive feedback loop when the sodium never stops coming. Higher pressure, more damage, more scarring, less filtering capacity. The NIH describes albuminuria as the body's first alarm. It shows up on a urine test years, sometimes a full decade, before kidney function numbers start dropping on a standard blood panel. Your kidneys aren't simply wearing out with age. Their capillaries are being stretched by pressure that stayed too high for too long, and sodium is the single biggest dietary driver of that pressure. The chain in 5 links: sodium to blood volume, to blood pressure, to glomerular pressure, to albumin leak, to kidney damage. Every link is measurable. Every link is controllable. So who's actually testing for this? If you're over 50 and don't have diabetes, the honest answer is usually nobody. The relevant test is a UACR, urine albumin to creatinine ratio. It's a simple urine sample, costs less than most copays, and takes minutes to process. If you have type 2 diabetes, your doctor almost certainly orders it yearly, because diabetes damages the glomeruli through a separate pathway, elevated glucose attacking the capillary membrane directly, and that screening protocol is well established. But if your risk driver is sodium and blood pressure rather than diabetes, this test is frequently skipped entirely. Your annual panel does include a creatinine level, from which labs calculate your eGFR, estimated glomerular filtration rate, a snapshot of how well your kidneys are filtering right now. The catch: eGFR is a late indicator. It can sit comfortably in the normal range, 85, 90, while albumin is already leaking at 3 times the upper limit. That gap between the early protein leak and the later blood test decline is exactly where kidney disease hides undetected. One at-home clue worth watching: foamy urine. Not the ordinary bubbles from the stream hitting water, but foam that sits on the surface and doesn't dissipate after 30 seconds or so. It isn't a diagnosis on its own, but it's a legitimate reason to ask your doctor for the UACR test. Understanding eGFR. This number measures how many milliliters of blood your kidneys clean per minute. A healthy young adult filters around 120 milliliters per minute. After 40, that number naturally declines by roughly 1 point a year. For someone over 60, a normal eGFR generally sits above 60. Above 90 is considered strong. Kidney disease is staged by this number. Stage 1, eGFR above 90. Blood work looks completely normal, but if albumin is already present in urine, capillary level damage has begun. This is the stage where intervention works best and gets caught least. Stage 2, 60 to 89. Mild reduction, usually symptom-free, frequently noted and passed over. Stage 3, 30 to 59. Moderate disease, where most diagnoses actually happen, often after significant glomeruli are already damaged beyond repair. Stage 4, 15 to 29. Severe. Dialysis planning conversations typically begin here. Stage 5, below 15. Kidney failure, dialysis, or transplant. The distance between stage 1 and stage 5 can span 20 years, 2 decades of an undetected protein leak in someone eating what they believe is a healthy diet and seeing their doctor annually. If your eGFR sits between 60 to 89 and you've been told it's fine, ask one question at your next visit. What is my urine albumin level? eGFR tells you where your kidneys stand today. Albumin tells you where they're headed. 66 years old, retired teacher, lived in the same house outside Dayton, Ohio for 28 years. Never smoked, never drank, walked with a neighbor 3 mornings a week. She ate carefully and was proud of it. Whole wheat toast for breakfast, a turkey sandwich for lunch, canned minestrone with cottage cheese for dinner. No fast food, ever. At her annual physical, her eGFR came back at 52, stage 3 CKD. Her nephrologist ran the urine albumin test, elevated. Her kidneys had been leaking protein for years, undetected, because her earlier eGFR reading sat in the low normal range, and she wasn't diabetic. No flag was ever raised. When a dietitian tallied her actual sodium intake, Ruth expected around 1,800 milligrams. The real number? 4,100 milligrams. But I never add salt, she said. The same thing every patient says. It was all in the fine print ingredient list, not on the front of the package. 230 milligrams per slice of bread, 920 milligrams from 4 slices a day, 620 milligrams per serving of deli turkey, 890 milligrams per cup of canned minestrone. She ate 2 cups. 400 milligrams per half cup of cottage cheese. Every item was real, recognizable food, chosen for decades under the belief that it was the responsible option. Ruth switched to fresh bakery bread with visible sodium labeling, home-roasted turkey instead of deli cuts, homemade soup from dried beans instead of canned, and fresh produce. Within 4 months, her urine albumin dropped. Her eGFR stabilized at 54 and is held there for 2 years. No new medication, just information her 12-minute appointment never had room for.